Prakash Diwan, Head Institutional Clients Group at Asit C. Mehta Investment Intermediates, joins in on the show. Prakash, it doesn't seem like, looking at the global picture, it's going to be an easy start for us today.
Absolutely, Aisha. I think this is an overhang from the last week's close itself. When we saw Thursday, for the first time in many weeks, the US market started losing ground. And I think it's a cascading effect that we will see. And thanks to the fact that some of the markets have been intermittently closed in the last few days, I think the contagion effect, the negative contagion effect is not yet felt completely. And if that were to happen, we would probably see some sort of an exodus and interest levels waning off. And given the fact that we are getting into result season as well, I think it's just going to get compounded, and the uncertainty is only going to keep people away from the markets.
So do you worry about the course Q4 earnings could take, because most of the brokerages are of the view that for Q4 Sensex companies could report a PAT growth of only 6 or 7%?
Because the expectation on top line growth, of course, there's a lot of variation in expectations as we hear. But my sense is we could probably not see such a major disappointment on that front. What could possibly be continuing to hurt bottom lines is, of course, interest rates, the high interest rates that we've seen, and especially for a lot of export influenced sectors. The other negative is going to be the rupee. The fact that the rupee really didn't give any advantage vis-a-vis what we saw in Q3 is also going to make things difficult in Q4 for most of these sectors. So my sense is we will see a real compression in the earnings, but not necessarily in the top line growth, which very clearly paves the way for some sort of a ease on interest rates that the RBI should be looking at very soon, if not necessarily next week.
What about the PNGRB gas price flow? Do you think the market has digested all the pain? Do you think names like IGL, Petronet LNG as well as GAIL could crack further today?
We possibly might not see that happen on IGL, because it's anyways taken, the beating that it would have. The extreme that we've seen of that 45% cut in the morning yesterday was, I think, the lowest it could probably have withstood in terms of this brunt. But the other companies, especially if you look at GAIL, that's a very interesting case study. You have a lot of pipelines that are actually in the offering for GAIL. In fact, a lot of new ones are getting commissioned in this period till up to June. And if this is the case of pricing that GAIL would have to comprehend with, I think it's going to be a disaster for somebody who spent so much on capex. So I think the companies that we are seeing, the list could expand. Maybe the damage would not be much deeper than what we've already seen. But there is this hope that there could be some respite. Finally, fair justice would be meted out to all these players. But that would take its time. And in the meanwhile, the contagion, the negative impact could spread to some other companies as well.
Your thoughts on KFA and whether at 1860 it would make sense to perhaps nibble into the stock, if you were to believe that it is going to be rescued by whichever player?
Aisha, I'm not too sure if the Reliance thing is a major breakthrough, because what could happen is anybody who is buying into Kingfisher, especially such a massive stake, would definitely ensure that there are enough sweeteners along with it, which means as a stakeholder in Kingfisher, I would not really be on the beneficial side. But given the fact that the government is very clearly looking at look at the cascading negative impact of airlines closing down, or actually even slowing down its operation. We already have the airports crying about the pending dues which they have. GM has been slapping so many of these fines and dues on the companies. You already have fares going up 20% in the month of March. Now, all these will very clearly indicate that the government has to act on that FDI bit, if that's the only thing left with them. And if that happens, I think Kingfisher would probably be salvaged, and it could probably be worth a look, probably at about sub-18 levels. And look at exiting also very quickly, because the long-term trend could be very, very stagnant, could be very consolidated of sorts. But you would get a quick upside from sub-18 levels to about 21, 22 in case of some positive development on the FDI side.
Prakash, strategically, how would you plan your entry and exit in Tata Motors? Of late, that stock also has been a big outperformer, even though global growth concerns are surfacing up. But Tata Motors is firm like a rock.
No, absolutely. In fact, That's one of the stocks in the portfolio that's not seen any value erosion, and hence there have been very few exits from all institutional investors in the last so many months. Now, what could happen is if Tata Motors were to sentimentally come down to, in that zone of 235 to 240, then possibly, people would start looking at accumulating it in a significant way. But at current levels, the upside that it offers in the medium term seems to be slightly capped because of the kind of concerns that we're seeing from some of the new markets that they've paved their entry into. But once the consolidation in these markets is through, which would probably be another couple of quarters, I think Tata Motors is going to be in a very different growth trajectory, and I would give it probably a yearly, end of the year target of about 350, 355. So that's a very clear straight upside and a very resilient stock at that. If you had to be in autos, that's a stock you should have in your portfolio.
What are your thoughts on Godrej Industries? That stock is moving from strength to strength, touched a new high on Tuesday.
I think, the backdrop to the particular growth momentum that we've seen in the price is of course the kind of changes that the group is finally making in terms of its ownership, its scattered ownership in so many other businesses. I think what was missing earlier was focus. It was a bit too over-diversified in terms of activity. And I think the consumption theme is finally coming home to roost, and that's exactly what investors like. Now that itself has given it a new re-rating. If you see, there have been no new launches, there have been no new announcements of new products, no expansion of any kind of a portfolio, but it's just a sheer re-rating or perception that's changed. And certainly there's an appetite that we see, we've been getting inquiries for a lot of blocks for the stock as well. And that's because people probably find HUL and ITC to have probably peaked up at in some way, and there's a dire need for diversification, at least in the top tier companies, and that's exactly what's benefiting Godrej Industries so well.
Prakash, how do you propose investors should approach momentum stocks now? Because momentum stocks are typical stocks where traders, they buy them for a trend, they don't buy them for a value.
No, absolutely. In fact, that's exactly where we've seen this sudden indifference step in, and there's no takers for all your momentum stocks, be it Bata, be it a VIP, be it a Titan. Now, what's typically happening is people have been caught on the wrong side with a lot of their stop losses getting triggered when market has had these violent swings, which have been fairly unpredictable. But given the listlessness in the market, I think it's the right time to get into momentum stocks before actually the momentum starts building. And from that perspective, a VIP at 105, maybe a Jubilant close to about 1070. These are values. You may not, as you said, look for value out there, but that's actually at the cusp of starting off on the momentum. And you need to look at buying into listless markets if you really want to ride the momentum and get out at the peak. But if you were to get in later, the investors really don't have much meat left on the bone. But this is actually the right time to get into some of the momentum stocks, the erstwhile momentum counters, and then start nibbling into them.
Prakash, at the current juncture, what worries you the most, global concerns or local concerns? And in this current environment, where are you advising your clients that they should be putting the money to work?
Nikunj, the bigger concern, of course, out of the two is more domestic. If you really ask me, we could have been at a sweet spot very easily if we could have seized this opportunity where globally things are not in the best of shape, and we could have promised that land of opportunity that we've always been touted ourselves as. And where we had policies which were pro-growth, where the dynamism of the governance was very evident in numbers, but all of that is completely missing. In fact, we've taken a couple of steps backward, and we've got this retrospective taxation jinx that's kind of hitting everybody. I mean, today I heard about even builders in Bombay protesting against some VAT issue which actually is getting implemented with a retrospective effect from 4 years. I mean, these kind of things are what worry investors, because globally if things were bad or getting worse, at least India was a safe haven, or it was a place of opportunity, but we've kind of completely deprived ourselves of that. So this is more worrisome than anything else, and if the government doesn't do anything to rein in fiscal deficit, come up with some progressive steps, I think we're only going to get into a state of slippage which is going to be difficult to get out of. So that from a medium term is difficult. So what we are advising people is sit on at least 30% cash on your portfolios, keep on booking profits trade on some stocks because there's enough news flow that helps you do that, especially on the momentum counter, especially on the mid caps. But the large caps, go for the consumption, go for the pharma names, and you'll probably be much safer, from a medium to longer term perspective.
Prakash, what about Bharti? And do you think a 4G license could be a game changer of sorts?
What it could give Bharti is a huge advantage in terms of having introduced itself into the market much earlier than anybody else could, build capabilities. If you realize the only thing that's missing in the piece is the metro presence, the Delhi and the Mumbai presence. Now, if they were to acquire that, in addition to those four territories that they've already got under the belt, I think it's going to be a huge game changer because the margins are the maximum in the initial period of any kind of a launch. And given the fact that video streaming, video conferencing is going to pick up with high travel costs, with fuel costs going up, there's a very subtle but a gradual trend that's emerging, and these services could probably change the way people look at telecom and the usage of telecom in particular. So if Bharti were to do that very successfully before Reliance gets in or before any of the other players think about spreading their wings, I think it's going to be definitely a game changer for them.